right, it has been a long time since I've done an inspection of this hive. It's been so insanely hot this summer that at a certain point I came to realize the bees they're doing okay, and it was probably best for both of us if I largely just let them go about their business. I satisfied myself that they were somewhere finding pollen and nectar, because this hive is in a suburban area. They seem to have been finding plenty of resources in watered gardens and lawns. We ended up going on some watering restrictions, but still the people that are interested in keeping things alive had the option of hand watering, and so there was never a complete watering ban. It's still hot. Today's probably about 100 degrees right now. We had 1 week where we had 2 inches of rain in the same week, and so down here, some things are flowering. I'll show you a little bit of that's planted around the garden if I think of it when we're done, because there are still resources that they have access to. But now with fall coming on, I'm going to have an interesting time tending the bees, because I'm going to be departing for a full month from mid-October to mid-November, and it's sometime in about that time frame where I would normally be winterizing the hive. That is, deciding what frames they keep over winter, reducing frames they're not using. I want to show you this. This came from a few weeks back, where I tried to do some queen rearing in July, and I put some frames over here. Some of them had some meltdown, and what the bees have done now is they have secured those to the bottom, the bits of frame that fell out, and I need to probably remove those. I don't know for sure whether, yeah, I'm probably going to do that right now. But at any rate, what this inspection is for is to get an idea of which frames will stay when it's time to winterize, and which frames are going to be available for use in other hives to share resources with them. So there was really nothing much in these chunks of wax. I'm going to put them in my smoker bucket here in a minute. There's one lonely hive beetle trying to scurry away from me. I think maybe I was able to mash him. Get all this cleaned up off the bottom. A couple of bees have come out to investigate what I'm doing, to register their displeasure. And this wax will be melted down for future use. Ready to take a look at what their frames have, so that when I come back from my mission trip, I'll have a clearer idea of what we're looking at. Now let me see how I'm numbering these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I haven't numbered 10 or 11 or we've got everything numbered. And I do this largely so that I can make notes to the video about what I want to do on a future update. So this frame identified as frame 12 was used previously. They've started to do some build out. I do see one sneaky little hive beetle. Got him out. And we'll try to kill him. So that's probably one that we'll use for other frames and other hives in the spring, or back to these bees in the spring, depending on need. Alright, I thumped a little hard there. Sorry, girls. Alright, frame 11. They've started out making a little bit of comb. Let me show you what I'm doing here. So this is an example of one of my foundationless frames. Let's see if I can get the light to shine on it. We've got this little kind of a popsicle stick type of wood. Got a dowel for horizontal support, and they use this to center their comb on. And if they do that, and if the hive is level, then this should be a straight comb all the way down. Alright, so that is frame 11. Now frame 10 has been moved here from another location, and I'm trying to remember the reason for that. It may have to do with the evenness of the comb. Oh, I think what I did, I took this frame and put it into a section for the queen so that she could lay some eggs, and then it turned out she got back into the main body of the hive and it didn't matter. They have fresh nectar going into this on both sides, almost all the way up and down. Nothing that I'm going to be able to do with that right now. So probably what will happen as we go into winter, they'll start to consume that. And I'll either leave that for them, or yeah, probably it'll probably end up being left for them. This one is quite heavy because it's loaded with honey. It's almost on this side. It's like 3/4 of a frame of honey, all capped. And this one, it's half capped. The bottom half is uncapped. But with this heat, I imagine that this will be capped up quite soon. I'm going to slide this down, and since the bees aren't roaming a lot, I'm going to be able to slide it directly against these other frames. That will make it easier for me when the time comes to move them all back in place. So frame 9, probably altogether taking on both sides, it's probably about 3/4 capped. And it's all together nectar or honey related resources. Alright, now under this frame I see a little bit of the Swiffer sheet that I added, and it's going to come up with the frame. It came partway up to capture small hive beetles. This one is half capped on that side, bottom half is filled with nectar. This one is half capped on this side, filled with nectar on the bottom, although this bottom area, I believe, has previously been used for brood. It's not currently being used for brood. So right now, I would count both of these two frames as a full hive of resources to leave with them, and I'm going to intend to leave about 4 full frames of resources. All right, here is, there we go. This is a Swiffer sheet. You can see how many small hive beetles are trapped. You see the one that's moving there. Let's see, there we go. The one that's moving there is stuck. There's another one still alive moving there on the other side, also stuck. So that's going to be a death trap for the hive beetles. I'm going to drop this in this other end in the corner, because when beetles are being chased by a bee, that's where they run to. Now I just noticed that on my divider board, I didn't check it out as closely when I pulled it out as I usually would. I can see that there's a little bit of wonky comb attached there, so just scrape that off. Also scraped up some propolis. This is part of the abundance of the propolis seal is part of why I wanted to inspect now while it's still so warm, and not save it until I get back from my travels, because when I get back from my travels, they'll have less of a time frame, less available time to gear up for winter, to find more propolis and so forth. And so better for me to do it this time of year, to break these seals. And when I come back, if I have this all marked, and I should go ahead and mark this, frame 8 is a candidate to leave. Frame 9 is a candidate to leave. 10, 11, and 12, I believe all three of those I'm likely to take, either to equalize, to give to other colonies to equalize them, or to harvest a little bit of honey from. 7, look at this one. We've got some nice deep comb here this year. Okay, here we enter into the brood nest. I've got eggs and day-old larvae on the bottom. The queen could be here, but I don't see her just yet. The top is full of honey. This one, okay, on the other side, the top is full of honey. I think I see eggs, but no larvae on this side, and I don't see the queen there either. So I'm looking carefully. Seeing the eggs and brood reassures me that we do have a queen functioning here. She's been there within at least the last day or two. So that's another vital thing that I'm checking on right now. The bees are very calm. They're not alerting to my presence at all. I'm being gentle with them, and they're showing their appreciation for that. Also notice with the Layens Hive, all the bees that are in between any of these frames, they're not concerned. All the bees that are in between these frames, because the frames meet on the top, to them it's as though nobody's messing with them. They might see a little bit of extra light, might feel a little bit of extra breeze, but I'm not, as far as they're concerned, I'm not moving. We've got a nice half sheet of brood all the way from eggs to emerging brood. So they are, oh, and there's my queen. See the red dot? She's going around to the other side. And I won't show her this time, but I see her very clearly. So I'm trying to be as least disruptive as I can for her right now. And also, to make sure I don't run the risk of her falling off the frame as I move it away from the hive, or squishing her between sides. All right, queen right. All right, now I'm just going to survey for where are the resources. I'm going to mark this. 7 and 6 are brood. And we're going to take a minute to see how many brood frames do I think I have. That gives me an indication of the strength of the colony and how much honey they'll need left with them. So we've got 2 brood frames, 2 frames that are practically 100% full of resources, not all of it capped, but all of it in the form of the carbohydrates that they're going to need. All right, now I'm looking at frame 5. And this frame has a little bit of brood on the, no, it's got quite a bit of brood and some eggs on the bottom. Full half frame of honey and nectar at the top. On this side, it's like 3/4 brood and 1/4 honey. This is another one that I'm going to put down as brood nest. And this frame will most definitely be staying with the colony. All right, I can already see, oh my goodness, they're making drones. They are making drones. That is a little surprising to me this late, although not, from what I understand, not unheard of, but that indicates to me that if I do need some late season attempts to queen rear, it's possible. Looks like on this side of that frame, they have some, what have been some brood frames that they're backfilling with honey and nectar. So long as they have the other 3 frames of brood that I've seen, that won't concern me. So this is also brood, although turning towards, oh my, and another one. All right, so frame 3 is also brood, at least on one side. And now what I'm doing is intruding more and more onto their brood nest, so that I am seeing a little more activity by at least guard bees who are checking me out. They haven't really started to react negatively towards my presence. Now you'll notice these brood frames, for the most part, I'm not lifting out in the same degree that I was before. Now here, and this always makes me a little nervous when they're getting more agitated, I've got another of the Swiffer sheets. I thought that it looked like they were propylizing it over, but they're not. It's looking a little worse for wear, but I think I'm going to drop it in the opposite corner on the end there, let it keep doing its work. And this side is like almost a full sheet of brood. It's got the top 3 inches of honey, but other than that, it's brood all the way down. Frame 2, now capped brood on this one, lots of capped brood. This one looks like it's made, there's space available for brood. There's some drone brood in a patch, made no more than about 1/4 of it. And it looks like a lot of empty cells or cells where there are eggs. So this is also going to be brood. And then typically, we'll see if this bears out, typically that last frame is going to be resource heavy. This one, there's a little bit of brood at the bottom. Oh, pollen, 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 pollen. Everything that's not brood is backfilled with pollen. That is excellent. On this side, pollen everywhere. So what we'll end up doing, I'm going to mark this one as pollen. All right, I didn't come up with my four frames to leave. So this one may be, of course, they hopefully will have a little bit of a fall flow. that should begin almost, or with our next rain, I would expect. So I'm hoping that they'll be able to fill some more frames, although those first few that I did not mark as anything because I hadn't really decided what I'm going to do with them, they will be available to leave as resources. The only reason I didn't mark them is that they weren't capped, and so I'm looking for capped honey to leave with them over the winter. But if I have to supplement that with some uncapped nectar, that'll be all right. They'll eat the nectar first, and then they'll have the honey that remains to go through the winter. So I expect we'll have enough resources. But looks like we're going to overwinter. Of course, they may draw down a little bit more as time goes by. But right now, we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames of brood. That's going to be pretty strong. I like what I'm seeing here. Wish I had more honey, but boy, when the rain spigot turned off and the heat rose, that just put an absolute damper on the extraordinary spring that we had. All right. Oh, that's what I'm doing. I was trying to slide those, and they got kind of pinched as I had one further ahead than the other. Yeah. Now I've got to be, it seems to have identified that purple insulation there as an enemy. Maybe he's seeing my shadow on that and thinking that's where I'm located. So he keeps thumping that insulation. I'm treating that as fair warning. We're getting tired of you here now. He's found my glove now. Oh boy, and that sunlight on my shoe is giving me toasty toes. All right, so now when I get back in the country in November, at least have a roadmap for what I probably need to do here. I have some frames identified as those to keep. There's at least 2, probably 3 that clearly need to be removed for the sake of giving them less space to manage for pest control, and then the brood frames that I will know need to stay here. So 6 frames of brood at the moment. 2 frames that I for sure can leave for resources. 2 frames that I for sure can remove, and we'll have to figure out what do I need to do about the rest. Maybe I need to feed them for a time, let them make some more resources for winter. I try to avoid feeding my bees, but you know, hard times like this summer might call for that. So there's the Yellow Hive, the Garden Hive in Peterson Community Garden. And this has been Blackland Prairie Bees. Like, share, subscribe, and look up some of my other videos. Now that we're in the fall, hopefully they'll come a little more frequently. And let me zoom this out a little bit. Here is the Peterson Community Garden in Hutto. I'm going to give you a quick tour of some of the things that are happening here and some of the things that are still blooming. The beehives are back behind that flowering tree in the foreground. It's not flowering right now, but the beehives are the little glimpse of yellow that's shining through there. This garden is designated as a monarch way station, and those who tend the garden try to keep pollinators going as much as the weather will allow. So over here, I believe this is butterfly bush, which the bees will happily pollinate as well. I don't remember the name for this, but it is, I think, gearing up for a nice fall bloom. And I'm imagining that all of these plants that we'll see that are blooming are probably receiving some supplemental watering from those who manage the gardens. I do the beekeeping stuff and might occasionally get caught helping them out with other stuff, but mostly I'm focused on what the bees need, and others do the back-breaking maintenance of the garden. They keep it really nicely cared for and filled with stuff for pollinators. And here we see the bees are visiting. Let's see if I can zoom in now and let you see some of them. I hope that's capturing our little lady gathering. Another one, or several in the background. Right now I can see 3, 4. I should have, before I started walking, I should have zoomed back out. All right. Down here we've got more of that plant. Sorry, I'm not the steadiest at handling a camera while walking, so I imagine there's going to be some considerable jitter. I might also be a little warmer than I ought to be, so I'm going to head back to the truck here pretty soon and rehydrate. Some of the other plants that we have. Boy, I don't know what that is, but that has the makings of quite a showy bloom in development. Several others there. Here's the remnants of our, these are more of our native sunflowers that make the small blossoms. They grow everywhere around here. Boy, I don't know what that is. I'm sure I'll post this and the gardeners will tell me. But those look, I'm not sure. I'm guessing these are nighttime blooming. So I can't see them opened up just yet. But they sure look like they're going to be showy. And then bees and flies, pollinators all over these little yellow blossoms. There's the sunflowers that make the seed heads, feeding the birds. And here we've got these beautiful purple flowers with some red berries in there amongst them. Lots of honeybees at the moment flitting around. Over here, we've got something less impressive from a distance. Is this mesquite? This may be mesquite. And these little white blossoms. Now, if this is mesquite, this is one of our mainstay providers for the bees in the heat of the summer, because about the time all the springtime flowers are dying back, the mesquite starts to bloom, and mesquite flavored honey is pretty sought after. It makes a unique flavor, and it's going to be either trumpet vine or honeysuckle. I think that must be trumpet vine. So you can see where even at the end of a dry summer, at the garden they try to make it possible for particularly the monarchs and other butterflies to always find a little bit of a banquet table, particularly the monarchs who have to travel all the way down to Mexico. They are working this year especially at diversity and native plants as opposed to those you might find at a garden center. And looks like we've got some nice offerings here for the pollinators and possibly for humans at some point. Here we've got raised beds in preparation, mostly just letting them dry out for the summer, although up ahead the tarp on the ground, my guess is, I'm not privy, we got asparagus waiting there, my guess is that they're solarizing something here, trying to kill weeds in preparation for building something next year. They've planted several trees in the garden that will provide additional diversity for the area. Now back along the vine, we've got, oh, I'm blanking out on the name of it. I wanted to call it paradise fruit, but that's not quite right. It'll come to me eventually. It's a vining plant that can be used for food for humans, but also for juice. It gives a little tropical flavor. This is a mulberry tree. So at the right time of the year, this blooming tree will provide a lot of nectar. All right, and then a sunflower that has made it through the hot and dry. Not paradise. What is so there's the one of the blossoms. They make these beautiful blossoms. Oh, why can't I remember it? I'll give you a little on-screen text if I remember to identify what that's called. All right, time to go rehydrate. There's the garden and how the bees are subsisting.